Chapter 14, At the Island at the End of Everything, the letter. The next day, while everyone was playing during morning break, I slip away and skirt the back of the orphanage. An overgrown path stretches through a burst of trees. I follow it through the dappled shadows until they thin and stop, like soldiers coming to a sudden halt. I'm standing at the edge of a cliff, and there, glittering and infinite, is the sea. I squint and realise it's not quite infinite. That unmoving mark on the horizon must be Cullion. My chest clenches around something sharp. Somewhere on that tiny shape is Nane. A hand comes to rest on my back. Mary is there, her golden eyes wide with worry. It's all right, Amy. She goes to hug me, but I don't want to be held. Instead, we shuffle forward and sit side by side, legs dangling. After a long silence, Mari speaks. I'm sorry I followed you. I was actually going to show you this place today. It's my favourite part of living here. I call it the Takipsilim Cliff. Twilight Cliff. She nods. The sun sets this side of the island, so in the evenings we could come and watch the world get coloured in. Coloured out? My Amma used to call morning the time when the world got coloured in, so it makes sense that night is when it gets coloured out. She smiles at me, then points across the water. That's Cullion, where you're from. It isn't a question, but I nod anyway. Siddy is pointing away from it. Siddy? The bronze cockerel on the roof. I checked before I followed you. The weather vane? You call it Siddy? He was my first friend here, she says seriously. When they built the top floor, they tried to get rid of him, but Sister Teresa made them keep him. The sound of him turning used to put me to sleep. She holds her serious face just long enough for me to worry I've upset her. Then she pokes me in the ribs. I'm joking. You're my first friend here. I flush at that. He looks like a Siddy, don't you think? And if he's pointing towards the front of the orphanage, that means the wind is blowing in the direction of Cullion. So if you want to send your Nana a message, now's a good time. I frown at her. How? Whisper it to the wind. It'll listen to you. Why? Your name. You and the wind. Your family. She raises her eyebrows and grins at me, but she's not making fun. Try it. It might make you feel better. It feels silly, but I suppose it's no different to praying. I'm thinking of you, Nane. Are you thinking of me? The wind doesn't whisper back. As I open my eyes, I notice a red smudge far below us in the water, like a clump of algae. What's that? I point. It's a boat. Well, it was. See that path? She indicates a faint scribble on the side of the cliff. I went down once. The boat was more afloat then, but barely. It's damaged, abandoned, like me. You were left here? Mari nods. Sister Teresa was ordered to send me to a workhouse in Manila because I wasn't an orphan, only not wanted. That's horrible, I say. But she didn't, Mari shrugs. She ignored the government's orders. I think of Dr. Thomas and Father Fernan. If they had ignored Mr. Zamora and the government's orders, I would be with Nane right now. A hot spike of anger lances through me. I can't believe they left you. They also loved me, I think. They taught me things about trees and fishing and boats. Boats most of all. My father sailed. I remember him teaching me one-handed knots and how to hoist the canvas to catch the wind. She smiles dreamily. His face was so brown from the sun it was like leather. Then why did they... I don't want to use the word abandon. Why did you end up here? The smile fades. When I was 7, a witch doctor came to our village and said I was cursed, and that's why I was so pale. They said I was the reason for bad harvests, for women in the village not having their babies. She trails off. Very bad thing. That's not fair. At least they gave me to the orphanage instead of leaving me in the forest. That's what some people do to cursed children. But you're not cursed. You're the first person who's made me feel normal. Or at least that you're as strange as me. Strange? She fixes me with her honey eyes. The others don't talk to us, do they? Apart from Kidlat, they don't come near us. It's as if they don't see us. But you see me, don't you? And I see you. I look away, feeling a flush of embarrassment creep up my neck. We should get back. Mr. Zamora spends much of his time holed up in Sister Teresa's office. Though he is meant to be the director of the whole orphanage and everyone including in it, including Sister Teresa, he leaves her to run things day to day and only occasionally comes out to loom over us all and it's very strange to see her nervous around him when she's so fierce otherwise. Sometimes when it's noisy after dark in the boys' dormitory, Sister Teresa only has to go in and stand in the doorway and swish her habit a bit for them all to fall quiet. She sleeps and snores in the schoolroom now, though the men who are building Mr. Zamora's hut will arrive soon, so she will not have to for much longer. Nane's letters have not arrived either. It's not like Nane to break a promise. Mari says she is sure Nane has her reasons. She doesn't know anything about Nane or her reasons, but she is only trying to be kind, so I try not to show it annoys me. Mari is still the only one who talks to me here. I'd be lonely without her. Still, I don't tell her everything. I keep that inside of me, or I whisper it to Nane on the wind, which feels less and less silly. Nane's metal basin, which is now a home for my clothes. The bottom is a bit oily, and when I wear the tunic it smells slightly of garlic, but I love it. I keep taking paper from the schoolroom to write letters and give them to Luco, who takes them to town to post. At the bottom of each, instead of my name and kisses, I write, 1 step less. After 2 weeks, I wake to tapping. There is no note on the stick, only a stick dancing frantically at the shutters. I open them and I look up. Mari is leaning out of the window. What? I mouth. Look, she mouths back, pointing. I can't see anything for a long time, but then suddenly there is a cart coming through the trees. 5 men jump out of the back. They carry wood and tools, and one has a bundle of papers under his arms. Letters! Mari points down to say she's coming. I dress and creep past the sleeping girls. Sister Teresa is already up and standing in the doorway holding the letters. Anything for me, sister? I ask. Trying to sound relaxed, though my heart twists and leaps and gulps, Mari clatters down the stairs and Sister Teresa turns to us. Morning, Mari. Morning, Amy. You're in luck. She holds it out, a slim fold of paper. My fingertips just brush it before it is knocked to the floor. What's this? Mr. Zamora snarls. He has thrown open the office door and is panting, his shirt showing sweat patches under the arms. Sister Teresa gapes at him. That is a letter, and it is not yours. For her? He jerks his head at me. From the colony? From her mother, yes, says Sister Teresa, bending to pick it up. Mr. Zamora puts his foot on it so she cannot lift it without ripping it. Her mother is a leper. She has it badly, has no nose. I've seen her. He shudders, and I shudder too, but with anger. I'm aware that all the children's parents are touched. Mr. Zamora, now remove your boot. We can't allow this, he shouts. Other children are now gathering behind Mari on the stairs and in the doorway to the boys' and girls' dormitories, but Mr. Zamora does not seem to see anyone. We must keep this area clean. The letters aren't lepers, Mr. Zamora. Sister Teresa's nose is flaring. I understand the government has deemed it necessary to take the children from their families, but not to remove all contact. Now the builders have arrived, and I suggest you see to them. She is shaking, but her voice holds firm. Mr. Zamora grinds his heel into the letter, tearing it a little, but eventually he lifts his foot. We'll see about those letters. He goes outside. Sister Teresa retrieves Nane's letter, rumpled and boot-printed. I'm sorry about that, Ami. She hands out letters to some of the other children too, and Mari and I leave the orphanage. Mr. Zamora is talking to the men, and he glares at me as we pass. We wait until he is not looking, then hurry to the Takipsilim cliff. I take a deep breath and open the letter.